Thank you very much. Thanks, Camille. Thank you all. Why were you all laughing about the homeless? That got me nervous. Now, we are down 38% since when we started, so that's a move in the right direction, which is good. 6,200, this is a true actual number, 6,288 people we've gotten off the streets in the last 3.5 years, and I know that only because we celebrated on Friday morning with a press conference with this gentleman, Joseph, who was out in the streets for 14 years. We just got him off the streets because of our initiative, Care Not Cash, which is a new model for providing housing and really changing the dynamics of how cities are approaching the issue of homelessness and moving towards what we call a direct access to housing model, which now 109 cities, in fact, have replicated. And I'm very proud of that. Of course, proud of some of the things that Camille said as it relates to the accomplishments in the last few years in San Francisco, but what I recognize is good enough never is. And if there's anything that Silicon Valley recognizes, anything the state recognizes, is the same. There isn't having made it. Success is not a place or a definition. Success is a direction. And we constantly are looking to do more. And a consequence of that, I think we are all blessed living in such a dynamic part of the world, being in the heart of the new economy, where dreamers become doers, where we continue to enjoy the benefits of entrepreneurs and innovators of all types. And I think that's really the reason that I'm so proud to be a member of this remarkable community that is the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm so proud and privileged as well to be here with you in the Indo-American community to celebrate a fundamental that I think transcends all of these issues and everything that we'll talk about today and we'll talk about throughout the narrative and the story that's unfolding about this great part of the world. And that is, we consistently have demonstrated a remarkable capacity to live together and advance together across our differences. And you think about this, truly think about this. Everything that's going on around the world, where literally nations and people are being torn apart because of racial and religious and ethnic controversies. By definition, we've seen them fuel fanaticism, fuel terror. Here we are in the Bay Area, among the most diverse regions, in one of the most diverse states, in the world's most diverse democracy. And as I say, people are truly living together and advancing together in extraordinary ways across their differences. Every day, we celebrate all of those interesting differences, but at the same time, we come to understand that we will do more than just tolerate our diversity. We'll celebrate the diversity in the context of the things that unite us, as opposed to the things that divide us. That web of mutuality Dr. King talked about. The fact that we focus disproportionately on our common humanity. Why is it that this region, this state, is so successful? And it is represented in this room today. It is represented in the reflection of that remarkable diversity and the framework that advances it, a remarkable sense that we are all in this together, and a sense that when we achieve greatness, we achieve it together. And so as mayor of a city where we speak 176 languages, and a mayor of a city where close to 50%, this is an actual number, 46% of our entire population speaks a different language when they go home, where 39% of our citizens are foreign-born, I can say proudly, as its mayor, that at the end of the day, there's nothing else that matters more than just that. A city that embraces and celebrates, doesn't just tolerate and put up with its diversity. There is not a day that goes by where I don't have the pleasure and the honor and privilege of celebrating that diversity. Where I'm out on the balcony of City Hall, putting up a flag representing an important day, marking a milestone in the history of our city and countries around the world. We have 79 consulates in San Francisco. We are New York City of the West in terms of our relationship to the Pacific and Asia and the Rim. We recognize, again, our fate is connected to the fate of others. And now, more than ever, it seems the rest of the country is starting to recognize the same. So now we must act differently in the context that we can take nothing for granted. And we've got to reestablish those ties that have bound us in the past. And we need to not take any of this for granted. That's why we're being very aggressive And you are going to all benefit, I hope. I certainly know that the region is going to benefit, but some of us more specifically, by some of the work that we've been doing just as an example of this, to reach out through our international airport, to get more direct flights to Asia, to get more direct flights specifically into India. Kingfisher Air in April will be doing direct flights to Bangalore and SFO. Next year, Jet Airways. Well, this is a big deal. And I don't know if many people know this yet. Next spring, we hope to be doing the same thing with Jet Airways from Mumbai to Shanghai. It's a little more circuitous, but Mumbai to Shanghai to SFO, not direct flights. And then third, finally, Air India, looking to do direct flights from Delhi to SFO, all happening in the first quarter of next year. Again, making the case that best days in terms of our relationships, as symbolic as that is, substantive for others as that is, are ahead of us. We also are going to be establishing for the first time in our city's history, why we haven't done this before is beyond me. But now as a mayor of a great city, I'm proud to finally reconcile this, but we've never had a direct region-to-region or city-to-city relationship in India. And we've long established them in China. In fact, we have the oldest sister city relationship in China and Shanghai, the oldest in Japan. In fact, over 50 years old when President Eisenhower, after World War II, asked my predecessor, Mayor Christopher, to establish the first people-to-people diplomatic relationship in the U.S. and Japanese relationship. And that was a sister city to Osaka over half a century ago, which we just celebrated. We've never done the same in India. We have been working for over a year, and many of you in this room, as I look out, have been principally responsible for getting us as far along as we have, as we're exchanging now our memorandum of understanding with Bangalore to establish formally a regional relationship, a trade cultural relationship with the region, 7+ million people, 7+ million people in this region, led by our two respective cities. And we hope to go out with a very large delegation, and I truly look forward to working with all of you next year to establish the framework so that can be successful. Again, around the time that all of these new airlines establish these new direct routes into this region. Again, a relationship that has been historic but needs to be formalized, needs to be codified, needs to be handled in a way that recognizes the new realities around the world as we are competing in ways none of us could have imagined just 5 or 10 years ago. I say all this long-windedly to say the following, that I take nothing for granted. And one thing I recognize, having grown up in San Francisco, I've seen the good days and the bad days. I've seen the good days in Silicon Valley, and I've seen some tougher days. And obviously, we're experiencing some growth and renewal. But again, we certainly cannot rest on our laurels, and we need to reinforce that recollection and that reflection of our connected fates. I also just very briefly want to share with you a few thoughts about the political realities in this region. I've always been, as I may have referenced a moment ago, a believer in more than just talking about the way the world should be, but a believer that you've got to make that world manifest with fundamental change by taking action. You can't just talk about things. In politics, we talk and we talk and we talk. And if I hear Democrats and Republicans, if I hear another person, that's why Camille's right, talk about health care. If I hear another politician saying it's time for universal health care and then walk away and point fingers, and you sit here and we all give that person a standing ovation and nothing gets done. On so many issues, how often do we hear the same rhetoric almost coming out of both parties? But people are so fixated on who's to blame as opposed to what to do. What do all of you share at the end of the day, particularly those of you in the private sector? You share something completely adverse to the principle that we share in politics. You can't get away with the focus on who's to blame. You don't exist in the context of the realm that you're competing in the private sector, if you can't demonstrate results. Somehow, in politics, we seem to keep going to the next level, the next level, the next level, through rhetoric and through abdication and through coordinated efforts to placate constituencies in order to find ourselves in a position to get ahead.